Hi, Amy at Fashion Toppings here with a quick little refashioning idea. Now, I'm really, I do a lot of thrift hauls and I buy a lot of jeans. Well, if you notice on my Pinterest boards for refashioning, I've pinned a lot of pictures of jeans that have the patches all over them. And when you click on the link, it takes you to a store, and then the jeans cost like $200-300. And when you go to the thrift store, you don't find a lot of jeans that have the patchwork on them to bring them up to date. And I'll post a few pictures around here randomly just so you can see what I'm talking about. But it's hard to find them at thrift stores because they're so on trend now. People aren't really giving them up and donating them. So I decided to make my own. And I've kind of given you a preview of this project a few weeks ago where I had started on it. And I have been so busy, I have not finished them. So I'm going to finish them and I'm going to show you how I did it. So you can see how one leg is done and one leg isn't. So I started off, got some denim, and then did some scrap material. And you can see on the back, I've done one butt cheek, just haven't done the other. And I put a little patch at the bottom. So just putting the patches randomly around the jeans is the look I'm going for. And what I've done, I'm trying to look for it. Okay, and what I did is I went into my son's room, and he's in his my youngest one is in his early teens, and so he's going through a huge growth spurt right now. So I have a ton of denim that I get to tear apart, and so the jeans I like to use the most is actually, I think they're called Levi's Quicksilver or Levi's Silver or something. But what I like about them is on the outside it's kind of a shiny denim. But then on the inside, you can see I've already cut into them. The inside, look at the sheen on that. And so some of the Levi's have that. And so you can use both sides of the denim and it looks good. So I like to use those. And then for my scrap material that I used, I have a bunch of these little, I bought a little, at a craft fair for $1, a little package of wound up little tiny sample squares for quilting. And I like the plaids, and so I bought a bunch of them. And to keep these from fraying, I got out my pinking shears. See the teeth on those? There you go. And so when I cut with the pinking shears, then this won't fray. But with the denim, I cut the denim with a normal scissors because I want it to fray. These jeans, the more I wear them, the more I wash them, the cooler they're going to look. So I opted just to use normal scissors because I want all these strings to show up over time. Now, if you really want to make it look rustic, because this is pretty new looking denim, you can take sandpaper before you sew. Before you sew, if you're going to do anything with the sandpaper, do that first. And just rub a sandpaper on it to make it look nice and roughed up. I don't want to do that. I want mine to be nice and shiny. But the reason you do that is if you wait and then put this patch on your jeans and then decide to rough them up, when you're using your sandpapers, you could go over your threads. Then you're actually tearing your threads that you just sewed in. You could tear them and it's going to fall out. So, unless you sand carefully around where there are no stitch marks. So it's just easier to rough up this material before you use it. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Now, you can sew by hand, and that isn't, one option. You can sew these patches on by hand, and then you're going to be, with your hand, you're going to be sewing, and then have your other hand inside the pants, grabbing the needle, pulling it, and then pushing it back through. It's tedious and takes a long time, and granted, that is an easy way to do it, but it does take time, and I don't have the patience for that. So what I do, okay, I already did the one leg, because I'm also going to be narrowing from the knee down, narrowing the legs on these just a little bit, because I want to roll them. I want these jeans, I want to be able to wear them this summer, and so I want the option to be able to roll them up. So I am picking the seam, not the double felled seam, or the thicker seam. I'm not picking that. That's on the inside of the crotch, the inside of the leg. I'm not picking that. I'm going to pick the nice smooth side because it's easier to work with. So I'm just going to pick open that seam up the leg so that it'll fit right on my sewing machine easy. And since I'm going to take in the leg a little bit, I'll stitch it right back up. So let me go ahead and use my seam ripper. I'm going to pick the seam and then I will be right back. Okay, now that I have, what I've done so far is I ripped up my outside side seam so I have access to the inside of my leg. I laid my pants on the ground and I cut out patches and just pin them where I want them. And you notice I have the pins all in the middle. I don't have any pins along my outside. It just makes it easier because you're maneuvering. I'll try to bring the laptop over there so you can see. You're really working with a small area inside this leg. So you're going to be doing some back stitching, some forward stitching just to get around the edges. The last thing you want to do is mess with trying to pull pins out. So I put the pins in the center so they're nowhere, they're not going to be in my way of sewing. I won't be sewing over any pins. So, and since I'm going to be sewing this one first because it's underneath this one, I have to sew this one first because I have to go around all four sides. You don't want to leave a space underneath here. So I have this one pinned on just so I know where I want it, but I can lift it up and I can sew underneath and lay it back down, and then I'll sew this one next. So I'm going to go ahead and take this to the sewing machine and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so now, see, this is where I ripped open my seam. I haven't cut any fabric, so I can still see where my old stitch line is, so it's easy to put it back together. So now that that's open, I can lay my pant leg right on here. I'm going to use a straight stitch, and I'm going to go close to the edge, but not too close to the edge of my fabric because I do want some fraying. Okay, fix my stitch or back stitch, whichever you have. Important to keep your pant leg nice and smooth while you're doing this. You don't want any buckling. So keep everything smooth. Drop my needle and spin this way. Make sure that the other part of the leg is open so we're not accidentally sewing our patch, showing our leg closed or sewing it to something that we didn't want to be sewing it to. Okay, spin again. And I didn't rip my seam up far enough, so this is where it gets awkward because I did not rip my seam up far enough. I'm going to get a lot of bulky material. Okay. Always checking to make sure we have no fabric folded underneath. Okay, drop my needle and then pivot again. So far I haven't had to do any back stitching. So kids' pants won't rotate as easy, so sometimes you have to like back stitch to make a square because you can't always maneuver the jeans to keep going in a forward stitch. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Making sure it's flat. Nice thing about this is we don't have to worry about being neat because we're patching. Like right there I have a buckle, but I'm going to sew right over it, sew it down. Okay, back stitch or fixed stitch, whichever you have. Okay, so now I have this denim one done, so I can take the needles out. Okay, now to this top patch. Make sure my threads are behind. Slide the leg back onto my arm of my sewing machine. This is where I did not rip my inside seam up far enough. So I can either go back and rip it some more, or have to do my back stitching. Okay. I'm doing this one at kind of a funny angle just to be different. Fix stitch, go around the square. A needle in the down position and spin. Making sure the pants aren't buckling up underneath. Keep the needle down. Okay, yep, this is where what I was talking about with back stitching. I can't spin this anymore because of the arm on the leg, and I don't want to take the time to pull the leg off, rip it a little bit farther. So I'm going to back stitch. So put it in reverse. This is what I was talking about earlier, that you might have to back stitch to be able to do a complete square. And make sure everything's flat. And making sure our needle is always in the down position. Leave the needle down. See? Now I can stitch forwards again. Just that in that one direction. I couldn't go forwards because my pant leg didn't fit on the arm of my sewing machine. So I'll put it back in forward stitch. Okay, fix stitch or back stitch. And it was easy as that. See, I still have to put my seam back. But what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to repeat the same process. I'm going to put a few patches on the back while I still have the seam open. Which leg am I on? This one. So I'm just going to put just a couple. I don't want this to be like gone crazy. I'm just going to put maybe one patch right here in the middle. And then I want to put one up here someplace. So it's the same process that I've been doing. Oh, I forgot to do this one. And I'm going to put one inside the pocket so I can have a little bit of color. Okay, so I'm going to continue to keep putting a few more patches on here, repeating that same thing. Now that I have the leg wide open, I'm just going to lay the patches where I want and put them on the sewing machine, just sew a square. And then I'll be right back and I'll show you how I'm going to close it up and make the legs a little bit more narrow. Okay, now that I have my patches sewn on, I've turned my pants inside out because now I have to sew back up the seam that I tore apart. And this is really simple. Now I already pinned it together, and I'm going to show you what I did. Let me take out one of these pins. You just make sure that, here's my opening, just fold it, put it back to its original spot, making sure the front and the back, make sure the front and the back sides match up perfectly. And then what makes it easier is if you put your pins in this direction, which I'll show you why. I have all my pins going this direction, and the reason I do that is because it holds this seam flat so that it doesn't roll up on me while I'm sewing. So, because if I would have put my pins this direction, you know, if I would have put my pins in this direction, these would fold up like this and it wouldn't stay flat. So by putting these pins in this direction, it holds this lip, it holds it flat so that it's easier to sew. And I just decided I'm taking in, see my little red dots, right there, and it goes up to the knee, and then I have my stopping point right there. So I just, from this point down to my hem, I'm just taking in an inch at the bottom and then just merging it back into my normal side seam. I want the bottom to be a little bit thinner because I like to roll the bottom of my jeans during summer when I'm wearing flip-flops, but I don't want to take any length off the jeans. I just want them to fold and roll nicely so that it gives you that beach look, you know, flip-flops and some casual jeans. And so I'm just taking just an inch off just at the bottom so that my fold is nice and neat. I don't want it to look like gardening capris, you know, where your legs are wide and then you have the roll. I do have pants like that. I do like them. I just don't want these to be gardening capris. So Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take this back to the sewing machine, and it's real simple. I'm just going to do a straight stitch right down my pin line. I'm going to, since I've taken my inch off, I'm going to take my inch off, and then I'm going to merge it right back into the normal side seam, and I'm going to follow it all the way up my pin line. So then I'm closing that hole right back up, and it's going to look exactly the same as it did before. Let's go ahead and take it to the sewing machine and get that part done. Okay, I'm going to want to start above where I started ripping, just to reinforce, and I don't have to worry about accidentally leaving a gap or a hole. So I'm going to start up higher than where I have my pins. Making sure everything's laying flat. Okay, my pins are down here, but I'm starting up here just so that I'm making sure it's nice and strong and I don't leave any holes. Okay, so I'm going to fix my stitch or back stitch. Okay, so you can faintly see the previous stitch line, and I'm just stitching right back, making sure my fabric's nice and flat, top and bottom underneath. Make sure everything's laying flat, nice and smooth, and I'm stitching right in the ditch or in the old stitch line that was there before I ripped it out. Take my pins out as I go. Okay, now I'm to my red line where I want to start tapering it in a little bit. Okay, just following that red line. Okay, now you'll notice that I had to take my hem out just so that I can have it lay flat. I just took my hem out so I can lay it flat, pull it completely flat, making sure our needle's in a down position. So hopefully you can see that. See how here's our normal hem, and then right here I've actually unpicked that hem so that I can lay flat so that I can have a clean ending to my stitch. Okay, back stitch. Okay, since my thread is the same color as the jeans, you aren't able to see it, but I'll show you this way. So when I put my hand in the pants, you can see how much I took off. So I took off by an inch, just to make it, like I said, make it taper nicely. Now we have to roll this back up. So now for this, I am going to cut off the excess material. I'm just going to show you how to do this, but I'm going to be running mine through the serger, so I'm only going to cut up a little ways because I'm going to do mine on the serger. But so I'm going to run a serger all the way up just to finish my edge. But what you need to do is cut off the excess material, and then just roll your hem back up the way it was. Tuck everything back in, just like that. And now we do a top stitch right over that. That will close that back up. And I don't have gold thread, and I'm going to be rolling these jeans anyway, and I'm going to serge them. But so basically, I would run these back, put this back under the machine. I'm going to be using a serger, so I'm not going to do this completely. And the thing is this is really thick. I'm going to sew it a little bit, and then I'll have to rip it out before I put it on the serger. But I just want you to see how to do this. You have to go really slow because this is really thick material. Okay? Okay, so you're going to have to go really slow, making sure everything's laying nice and neat. When you get to the top of this little nub, if your sewing machine, that's the thickest part of the side seam, if your sewing machine can't make it, then you manually, you have a handle that's over here. You can manually sew by rotating that dial towards you. You can slowly, manually sew over that bump. You might have to help it a little bit. See, you can manually sew it there until you get over that thickest part of the material. Then you can continue on, see, sewing normally. Okay? Okay, now that I have my patches on, I have my side seam closed back up. Gotta turn it inside right. And voila. Makes the legs look cute. And then the back side. Let's go try them on. Before I try on those pants, I just want to give you my outfit today. This jacket I thrifted for $2. This is the one I believe I got at Park Avenue Thrift. I always laugh at that name. And the shirt is from the Loft. And it goes with the pants. And the pants are also from the Loft. And these are little genie pants. Little cargo genie pants. They are so comfortable. They get the big pockets and they're baggy. So those are my genie pants. And then the belt is a Bally belt from Little Black Bag. And then for shoes, I'm just wearing my little black flats that I thrifted at the Goodwill. So that's my outfit of the day. Now I'm going to go try on those pants. They turned out kind of cute. Look at the patches on the front, on the knee, and the patches on the butt, the back of the legs. Might have done one too many on the back. But I got one on the pocket on the inside. So I thought they're cute. This can't get in the laptop completely. But this is easy, and you don't find pants with the patchwork done on them at thrift stores very often. In fact, I've never seen them. And I actually have them rolled up with my flip-flops. So it's really casual. With my denim jacket that's been thrifted. One of the many denim jackets that I've thrifted. So, well, this was just a quick and easy project, how to give your jeans a little bit of that shabby chic look without having to pay a fortune for it. So it was real easy. I just cut up my son's jeans. These are his Levi Silvers. This is the inside of the jeans. This is the outside of the jeans. So I only cut up one pair of jeans. And then these are just scrap pieces of material that I had left over. They're quilting material. So, and once again, I got a whole bunch of them. So, I love them. Okay, well, this is Amy with Fashion Toppings with another refashioning idea. And until next time, I hope you have a great day.